let's be honest, AI gonna replace 80% of people. Basically, the deeper we are into interacting with technology, the worse we are as a human being, period.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being part of the Supercharged episode. I started this podcast because I wanted to share with you more of the brilliant and impactful people that are leading the age with AI. I wanted to share with you where the future with AI is headed and pick up on the minds of the amazing people that are building companies with AI and how we can do things, how we can build business in a way that never was possible before, because now AI is allowing us. So today, my guest is Dimitriy Wolf. He's a world-class communication coach. He's a social scientist and entrepreneur who is coached from CEOs to world-class leaders, and he has even been on the same stage with President Zelensky. He's here to unpack today some of the science and strategies behind powerful speaking, presence, and persuasion in the modern world with AI.
Thank you so much for introduction.
You're welcome. So let me start with something that we spoke about before we came to this podcast, and that was you said that we're getting dumber because something thinks instead of us, yet we remain thinkers, which made a big impression on me because all day long we're communicating with AI, and it literally can do all the thinking for us. And it's all of the job that we used to do. It's kind of outsourced, and it's an important part of being a human. It's an interesting paradox of AI. Can you unpack this for us?
So I don't want to dive too deep into biology, but let's say we have biological networks in our brain, right? And these are responsible for different functions. So there is one of the neural networks called the DMN. It's a default mode network that turns on only when we're not participating in any outer activities. We should basically be inside our head with ourselves, not consuming any kind of content. I mean, the moment you take a look at your screen, your potential ability to switch into default mode network drops. And as far as we know, at least now, our neural networks are being developed until we're 25 years old. So until 25, our brain keeps growing, adapting, learning. Well, it learns, I believe, the most of our lifetime, but on the very active stage, right? So people have to be able to switch off from the outer world without consuming any kind of information, which is nearly impossible these days, because normally I believe we all have this habit of just taking your phone out and whatever, swiping, watching Reels, watching YouTube, or yes, communicating with GPT or any other artificial intelligence. So this is the problem. We lack the ability to stay with ourselves in our head, to daydream, to visualize things, to imagine, to dream. And this is crucial for our brain because during this time when we are, let's say, semi-offline, we're not sleeping, but we're somewhere in our dreams, our brain keeps doing a lot of super important functions that are actually responsible for our soft skills, for our empathy, for our cognitive skills, for a long-term memory, and so on and so forth. So basically, the deeper we are into interacting with technology, the worse we are as a human being, period.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So, and proceeding more here is that newer generations, I mean, like you and me, we've been there where there was no AI. We've been there where there was no Instagram or whatever, Tinder, YouTube, and so on and so forth. So our brain managed to develop those core functions that were crucial, that are still crucial for our interaction with the world, with each other, with building rapport in a natural way, with understanding each other, with being empathic, and so on and so forth. While the younger generations, they have some issues with that. I mean, even during their day-to-day communication, or even the moment they go on a date, they actually are not actively listening to each other, not participating in interaction with each other. So sometimes people sit in a cafe or whatever and just, type in front of each other, sending messages.
Yeah, I've seen
Because
that.
they're used to this form of communication.
Yeah.
And one other thing is that we can interact with each other with different ways, right? So it's not just talking or typing in messengers. We can do a public message online. We can do whatever emails. We can do exchange some visuals. We can do Zoom calls and so on and so forth. So our live communication is on the last position if we scale them on how active we are and what's the most used type of interaction. So that's also kind of explains how dramatically we're changing right now. And back to cognitive functions, yes, well, AI thinks for us, and that means we don't have to use our brain anymore that much. Things like memorizing something or growing your erudition just because that's a part of a human being. It's not so valid anymore. And some people started asking questions. Why do I have to do it? Like if GPT knows everything.
Yeah, like we have external, like a brain that has all of this information, and the need for us acquiring it, it's not the same, probably.
Correct. Yes, we are delegating our thinking to a machine. It's basically the same if we were delegating walking to an, artificial leg or eating to an artificial arm or whatever. I mean, sometimes it's necessary. Some people really need it because, for example, some may lost their limb, right? So it was replaced on something robotic or bionic, which is amazing technology. It basically gives people, the ability to live their full life. But when it comes to thinking, well, there is a question. Since we're not, the machine is not empathic. The machine is senseless. And there's always a trick of how we can really adopt this knowledge.
That's very interesting and very unique perspective from yours. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what led a linguist like you to become someone who is building multiple AI companies.
That's a great question, actually. I'm still asking myself how that happened. Well, originally, I was teaching people how to perform on camera or how to speak on a stage and, do all those, grow their soft skills, in general. At a certain moment of my career, I got a little bit tired of repeating the same things. Because as you teach somebody, you may change the program, you may develop new paragraphs in your training, but it's still like 80% remains the same, right? Rapport is rapport. Answering questions on public, well, there are maybe 13, 15, 14 strategies how you can act, but it's still like something relatively stable, and it's still stable for like maybe a few hundreds years already, all right? So nothing really changes. So I had this idea of maybe, just maybe, I would be able to create some sort of program that will allow to, I'm not saying copy paste, but extract some part of my knowledge, put it inside a machine and let the machine do the part of my job. Right.
How do you feel about that also?
I feel amazing. I mean, actually, a lot of people are afraid that obviously machine gonna take my job.
Yeah.
Yes, it will. And let's be honest, AI gonna replace 80% of people, especially as people are getting dumber, less organized, less thinkers, less creative, less proactive, less empathic. I mean, the quality of the people drops.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, it is true that machine gonna replace as many people as possible, and there will be a big issue about that in the world. Right.
Yeah.
But the core thing what smart people can do right now is to learn how to switch from professionals in their field to cross-discipline operators, which means you can be a doctor, but you should be also a specialist in AI interacting in a medical field. Or you can be a robot operator, right? Because we know that there will be robots that will be probably better in a lot of things than humans. So that's the approach. You can whether fight this wave of new transformation, but it's the same as fighting industrializations a few hundred years ago. You know what I mean, right? Or the era of internet when it was just starting.
Right.
So it's useless. The good thing that you can do is transform your knowledge, adjust your knowledge in the direction where you can be the operator of AI and a specialist in something. So you can actually enhance yourself with the knowledge of the machine.
Yeah.
But turning back to your question, so I had this idea probably back in 2018. So I was inspired by creating my AI avatar that's gonna be probably speaking different languages, probably being as competent as I am, but working 24/7. So maybe that could replace me while I'm sleeping, doing some basic trainings for people in other time zones, for example, or that want to pay less for my services. And there are many options how I can do it, how I can implement it. So in 2019, Singularity University opened their branch in Kiev, and I was invited there. I believe it was 2018, not 1918. So I was introduced to a very wide and new to me at that moment world of exponential technologies and of the ways of implementations of those technologies and so on and so forth. So I understood that it's technically possible and it will be technically possible to fulfill my idea. And in 2020, I got access to GPT. I know it's 2 years before it went out in the public market, but at that moment, they were actually implementing it in different applications, and certain people with certain access could play with it. So I was one of them. So of course, I started to play and see how I can do what I wanted to, basically copy myself. Is how I created my first data set, is how I created my first AI agent, what do we call it now. And at a certain moment, I just met another guy who had very similar ideas as mine. And he was building like a smart LMS, like a learning management system. It's like a CRM, but for automating and storing any sort of knowledge for a huge company, for example. So with the application of AI in that LMS, we've been able to transform it into a mentor. So now the only issue was just creating the educational materials, what was also, of course, possible with the help of AI and a huge data set of our knowledge. He was actually also an educator. So that's how it started. And after getting some basic understanding and, the principle of building data sets, learning how to prompt engineer, how to connect different linguistic models with each other, I started to think whether I can implement in different businesses. And well, now I have 3.
So you mentioned that most of the people use AI in a very simple way. Just basic requests that are input, output, basic responses. And that's what most of the people now think that using AI is. So as someone so deep in language expertise, what does sophisticated AI usage actually looks like? What are we missing?
Well, what I often hear is that AI is not giving me what I want. It's probably the most often things that I hear from different entrepreneurs and experts in different fields. Like AI is creating poor texts or poor scenarios or whatever. I think you know it yourself. I mean, you're working with AI agents, and I believe you heard that many times by yourself, right? So the issue is that most people, they don't really train their whatever we're speaking about, GPT or any other linguistic model, they are not adjusting it to their needs. And they believe that the machine should somehow know what the result should look like. So instead of learning how to prompt engineer in the first line, instead of understanding how data set is created, and instead of understanding the architecture of an AI, people just, push the buttons and are unhappy. That's what often happens with people, right?
Yeah.
Pushing the buttons, being unhappy, and telling that it's not working the way I expect. Well, I host lectures in different fields, and especially these days in AI. So I often explain it this way. So let's say you have a robot with an AI that helps you in your household. So, and you want this robot to go to grocery and, get some milk. You tell him, robot, get me milk. You'll be unsatisfied 90%, right? Because it's gonna buy any random brand, any random size, any random package. Probably it may bring it damaged or it may be not fresh, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of options how this robot may screw it up, but that's not his fault because the given task was just to give the milk.
He did the task.
He did the task, right? So he brought you milk in plastic.
Yeah.
Like huge or too small or broken or outdated or whatever. So probably the right way would be to say like, robot, I want milk of that brand, of that fat, that size, that type of package. Bring it without any damages. Check, if it's not flavored or whatever. And then there is a much higher chance that the robot will actually bring you what you want. And this is exactly what is happening with the AI. So people are just using the very basic model of it and not understanding that you have to give more context. You have to give more specifics to the machine to learn it and to show it what you want and what you don't want, actually. So normally when I do prompt engineering, for example, I do a lot of texts. I do a lot of course, I constantly enhance my public speaking. I'm not writing my speeches, but like I'm reworking it and thinking how to construct them in a better way, say less with higher impact. And of course, I want it to remain my tone of voice and use specifically my wording and probably feel my sense of humor and probably know some of my stories. So probably know some of my background to use it and partly adopt it or, place it somewhere in my speeches or my articles or whatever. So I'm constantly teaching my system, telling about myself, telling about my beliefs, telling jokes that I think they're funny, and so on and so forth. So I'm basically teaching the system to know me. And then I'm telling him like, hey, this joke is good. This is how I would express this. This is how I speak this. This is how I would deliver this. Now mimic me. And that's just a part of the approach if we're talking just about generating text, right?
Yeah.
And if we're gonna dive deeper into performing some specific tasks, then obviously you have to be also very specific about the result.
Yeah.
Then one other thing, like a lot of people, they just don't understand how they may connect systems with each other, how they connect AI with different platforms. And, just as an example, me and my partner, we developed a system that we attached to different linguistic models, and one of them checks the other. So one is like a creator, while another one is just like a supervisor, right? So they are both working with the same data set, and they basically check in each other.
It's like a multi-agent collaboration.
Yeah.
I really love that because you can have them doing different tasks.
Exactly.
And checking on themselves. And I think the responses are way more truthful.
Exactly. They are much deeper. And if you actually let them learn more, I mean, if they both have a decent data set, then you can have amazing results. And if one of them is connected to, let's say, whatever, Canva, if you do designs, or to Excel, if you do some whatever you do in Excel, or then it gives you ready to use a result. You don't have to sit and copy paste.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, they just, they get the result in GPT and they sit and copy paste everything. It's a huge waste of time, of course.
Yeah. And how do you think, because as AI is getting more sophisticated, how do you think in the future we'll be able to distinguish which text is written by a human and which by AI? And do we even need that?
Probably more like 4 years ago, me and one of my business partners, we developed a system to check the fake news. So first of all, of course, we can analyze the writing. It's called the right print, right? So how the text is composed. Just by that, we can figure out if it belongs to a certain human being or is it generated. So how can we do that? So for example, I used to write a lot of things before just by myself without using AI because AI wasn't there.
Yeah.
If you go to my Facebook, if you go to my Instagram, there's a lot of content like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever. So if you take my texts and analyze it with the help of AI gonna learn my right print. It's like a fingerprint, literally. So it's a unique type of wording, jokes, mistakes in the text, and stuff like that. So by reading any text, by having a huge database, first of all, you can analyze text and see whether it belongs to a specific person or not, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we analyze Facebook generally, or we analyze Instagram generally, like every single account, every single piece of text that was written. So probably we're gonna figure out very quick that this text belongs to Dimitriy, and this text belongs to Elena, and this text belongs to somebody else. But what if we can't find this right print in our database? What may it mean? It may actually mean that it was generated by AI, by somebody who's unknown. Or here's the question. If we just randomly ask GPT to generate a text without telling any specifications, we all know that GPT has its own right print. So as a linguist, I can read the text and say like, hey, this is AI generated.
Yes.
And you can even, and most of the people actually can, because it has its own right print. Like and here's the twist. And then, and the emojis.
Yeah.
Emojis everywhere. So it's GPT right print. So yes, we can find it, we can spot it, we can analyze it, we can understand that it was created by AI. So that's just one side. If we are talking about fake news generally, we can technically analyze the moment when any message was posted and we can track it. So let's say we have some narrative. Some famous guy's done some bad things. Once we start tracking it, we may see that it was simultaneously posted from, let's say, 5 different accounts on Twitter, on X. What it tells us, it's not a random act of judgment of this bad person, but that's an informational attack, right? So 5 people simultaneously decided to post, or a single person from 5 different accounts decided to post the same information on the same platform. And after, let's say, just 5 minutes, other 10 platforms copied that information, also almost simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And then more and more and more and more, and everywhere the gap is, let's say, 3 minutes or 5 minutes, some standard or close to it period of time. So it's a pattern, right?
Right.
Then we can figure it out. So, okay, this message, this piece of information was born on X at, let's say, 9 a.m. And 9:05 it was shared on 10 other platforms. And then it was shared again in another 5 minutes on 50 other platforms. Is it a fake news? Most likely, yes. Or we can also analyze the right print and see that even each piece of this article, each copy of this article is written by some journalist with some name. If we put this text on like layers on each other, we can see the similar right print. Maybe a person will not spot it, but as a machine or like somebody who's deep in language, obviously we can see some patterns. And then we understand that it's probably some ghostwriter, maybe 1, maybe 2 guys, wrote a lot of versions of the same article and just threw it into the network. So yeah, it may sound like, wow, I simplified actually everything a lot right now, but I believe that in the future we all should learn how to do it, because otherwise we just gonna, eat shit every day from our screens. And let's face it, over 60% of information that we have on social media is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's fake already, just now.
Yeah. And I noticed something when people are talking about stuff, let's say that they learn from ChatGPT, but they haven't done them in real life. It's kind of, how do we fill the gap?
You mean people pretending to be somewhere who they are not,
Yeah.
just by using AI and
Yeah.
telling what AI just told them, right?
Because AI has a fancy way of framing everything and has
Yes,
a
exactly.
unique way of view about things that we...
Correct. But here's the thing, that we should learn how to identify what is the source of information. If it's AI generated, all right? So let's say I'm not an expert in whatever, taking pictures or operating humans, being a surgeon, but I'm sharing a very valuable advices in medicine.
Yeah.
So it should be labeled as like the source of information is AI. Maybe I'm not AI.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not, an avatar. But what I'm telling and my knowledge is something that was taken from an AI.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is that we can do things that we have no skills about. For example,
I don't think we can do things where we don't have the skills.
With AI,
we may try to do something,
yeah.
But we also have a very high chance to screw it up.
Yeah.
And personally, I'm super excited and super happy that at least now AI can't upload us skills.
Yeah.
It's not like, the metrics, like I know Kung Fu. You may read about Kung Fu, you may listen about Kung Fu, but once you go and try to hit somebody who's really into Kung Fu, you probably get your ass kicked.
True, that's right. You said one of your companies create brand voices so authentic that they are undistinguishable from the real voice. And walk us through how essentially teaching machines to capture the soul of a brand or a person, and how do you compress this entire company's personality into prompts?
So let's say we record this dialogue here and we transcribe it. We put it inside several AIs, whatever. And we analyze the speaking patterns, the keywords, because obviously you and me, we use certain keywords. We deliver the information in a very specific way, each of us actually, right? So we can put it inside a framework, like core beliefs, metaphorical thinking, words that we use more often and words that we use less often, words that we never use, intonation, feelings actually that we try to provoke in somebody as we speak, right? So then there is a thing like we all know that we can describe the avatars of our potential clients, right?
Yes.
But there is like the opposite side of it, that we all have archetypes. So probably the best description of archetypes were done by Carl Jung. And whether we want it or not, we are wearing several of those archetypes inside of us, right? So each archetype is also very specific. Each brand is connected somehow to any archetype or several archetypes. Yeah. And most of the clients of this brand are actually representing this archetype as well, right?
Yes.
So if we put it all together inside a data set, and let's say we form this description into an avatar description. Let's say we're creating a game character that should think, talk, and behave as it was written inside a very huge script. Will we get a good result? Most likely, yes, because AI can mimic people. And the result of how deep it can mimic is based on, of course, the amount of data that's been put inside and how it's structured. So what I normally do, I perform several deep interviews that I record and that I film. Then I transform it all into a data set, put a framework that I have developed. And after it's merged, I'm getting basically a character that represents the brand. And if we want, we can create your own personal brand twink that's gonna represent you even better than you do. Because it's not, the good thing about it, sometimes you're like communicating with somebody and you want to make a great impression. You want to, show all that you have, share your best cases, share your best stories, but something, you may forget something, or you may be stressed out, or you may be tired, and so on and so forth. That thing's not for sure all your best clients or your best cases, all your best scenarios, and it can tell it in the same way you do, because it learned from you.
That's right. And I heard you talking about you're building something like a Canva for educational content.
Yeah.
That can automate course creation, which is pretty interesting. This isn't about efficiency, right? Fundamentally, how might this fundamentally change what we consider knowledge worth teaching?
See, we live in a world that is changing faster than we can adapt to it.
That's very interesting.
And the speed of it is just enhancing. And some of the knowledges are getting old faster as we learn. It's one of the core problems in education generally, right? So let's say you go to university, you spend 5 years studying whatever, economics.
Yes.
And the moment you graduate, it's not relevant anymore.
Absolutely.
So obviously you get some principles. Obviously you understand some, fundamentals, what is good. But a huge part of the knowledge is not relevant anymore. Compare the market like 5 years ago before the AI.
Absolutely.
It's a different world, right? Or compare it before. So we need a tool that's gonna update the knowledge that we already have stored somewhere. And we need a way to deliver that knowledge to our head and update it as well, right? So let's say you have a company. Obviously, you have job descriptions and you have some processes that was constructed inside your company like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, depends how old your company is. And at a certain moment, you decide to change something because, well, the world is changing. And that means you have to update all of your database. And imagine you have, 100,000 employees, or 70,000 employees, or 50,000 employees. That's a lot of work, right? Update every job description, update every process, update every single piece of a corporate education element that people need to perform good. So we created this approach where there is a smart LMS and there is a content creation tool that allows you to create a course, to visualize the course, to check if everything there is valid. I mean, information-wise, you can upload it into the LMS, and the LMS then acts as a tutor, as a teacher for your employees or for your clients. So our first step was actually to build this system for corporate education. But at a certain moment, we just understood, okay, now everybody can make a course, everybody can check if it's valid, everybody can put his own knowledge inside the system and make it sound authentic.
Yeah.
So why not to use it like Canva for course creation? It's not published yet. It's not public. I mean, this tool, we're still mostly working on a corporate level, but we're going to release it quite soon.
Amazing. That sounds like wonderful way to...
Well, we still need to raise a little money for that, and we raised 1.6 mil already.
Wow.
Thank you. That was last year.
Yeah.
We created what's already on the market, what's working. So basically we proved the technology and the application methodics and everything. So now we just need to scale it and to make it more user friendly, so it's not just for internal corporate use.
I feel like also the coaching industry is going to grow a lot more, since we're going to have automated employees that work for us online. So we have to do our own thing.
I believe that coaching industry is just about to change dramatically. And I believe that, so scientifically, it's proven that there is a link between the technical knowledge and the social knowledge, which means that the deeper a lot of people gonna dive into the technological field, the more people we're gonna need to support them because their work is unhealthy. It's what I started this conversation, right?
Yes.
So we know that there is a pandemic of mental health issues.
Yes.
And like one of the reasons is actually just the technological influence on our brain, on our cognitive system, on our state of mind generally.
I realized that on one part there's EMFs that the devices emit. So our bodies absorb this Wi-Fi radiation and the cognitive part. And you was talking about something that is called AI hygiene, or how to prevent disease and what mental practices do we need to prevent the cognitive atrophy from AI.
That's one of my favorite topics these days to talk about. And I do a lot of lectures and courses on that. So because a lot of people, especially young people, are overwhelmed, stressed, depressed, and So, and I wasn't talking just about the AI hygiene, but rather about digital hygiene in general. So probably the healthiest thing that people can do these days, the healthiest and the simplest thing that people can do these days is to associate the screen time with something that is harmful. So let's say we don't have to teach anybody that smoking is harmful these days, right? So we all know that once you light up a cigarette, you're doing harm to your body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is obvious. So personally, it's proven, it's like whatever.
Studies.
So I want to teach people to understand and to follow a very simple routine. So the moment you turn on the screen of your phone, you're doing harm for your body. It's the same thing as lighting up a cigarette and inhaling smoke. The moment you turn on your laptop, your basically any screen around you, you're doing bad for your health.
Wow.
So, and the moment we start to associate screen time with a harmful habit, this is where we're gonna experience changes in our life quality. So obviously, we can't live these days without a screen, right?
Yeah.
It's how we work, it's how we communicate, it's how we navigate, it's how we buy things, it's how we sell things, and it's how we do everything, right?
Yeah.
So probably we should do some kind of digital retreats and just take days, or like hours, days or weeks without the screen. That's also a good approach. Personally, I advise to learn to schedule things in your head as you go online. Because, any screen, it may swallow you, right?
Yes.
So before I turn on the screen, I'm like building a short plan in my head. Like, why am I doing it? Like, okay, I want to answer this message. I want to make a call. I want to check my bank account. I want to do like this, and that. And I follow this routine. Once I'm done, I'm turning off the phone.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I try not to use earbuds without any specific need. Because, a lot of people, they are constantly in their sound devices, whatever it is. So I run every morning without anything, listening to anything but birds and my own breath and whatever I hear. So that's also part of digital hygiene.
Yeah.
Then there is a probably difficult habit, but one of the most important. So I already mentioned the default mode network in our head that is responsible for a lot of things. So there is an issue about that. You may turn it on only in 21 minutes of doing nothing. So you need 21 minutes just to go into this state, and then you need to spend there at least 15 to 20 minutes. So that's around 40 minutes a day.
40 minutes, yeah.
A day, right? So that's also a very good practice for day to day. Just like, okay, I'm gonna go to my default mode.
Yeah. Hey, how many hours you would do that?
Well, honestly, I'm not that well organized. I try to do it at least several times a day, but again, it depends on my schedule.
Yeah.
Of course, like now we have a podcast,
Yeah.
then I have 2 meetings, then I have to, obviously, once we do it, the first thing I gotta do is take out my phone and, run through the tasks and response to all the people that I have there, and so on and so forth. So here's the idea that you should just always think of interacting with your any digital device as something harmful. So you have to try to minimize it. And the only way how you can minimize it is having a clear plan. Why are you using it?
Yeah.
Right? So you
Yeah.
have to have a plan, like, okay,
Plan.
yeah, like I go with
Plan.
don't get lost in it, go with the plan. And of course, sometimes, someone's trying to hit you up with a message or with a call or whatever. So it just happens sometimes. So the good thing about it, like what I personally do with most people I interact with, I say like, hey, I'm not replying on any message, any call, anything before 10 a.m. Like I wake up around 6:30 until 10. I keep the interaction with everything digital minimal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then I'm telling like, okay, guys, just to certain people, not to everybody, but I tell them like, hey, I'm reading messages and I'm replying messages like 5 times a day and a certain period of times because I want to stay focused on my things. So let's say I check my messages at 10 a.m., then at 1 p.m., then at 3 p.m.
Okay.
You get the approach. It's a little bit old school as we used to do it when we had internet only at home or only at our office. And we've been able to interact with all those digital things only at certain periods of time. Right?
Right.
So this is the same approach. And of course, we gotta keep ourselves physically active. Of course, we have to avoid all this digital noise because it's not just a screen. It's also the music. It's also like basically any source of information that tries to land in our system without asking us for permission.
Can you tell us a little bit more about all of your AI ventures and what are you doing with AI? How are you applying AI in your companies?
Oh, that's a massive question. So let's start with Smart Expert. So Smart Expert is the system that allows to automate corporate education that we hopefully want to put on the market as, tool for everybody to create courses. So obviously it's AI powered in very different ways. And of course, our team is used to work with the same protocols as the system is working.
Yeah.
Because everything the system knows how to do now was previously done by our hands.
Yeah.
So if you do a course, you need an outline. There are several methodics how you can build an outline, right? So we developed an approach how to teach a machine how to create outlines in the best way. And for that, we hired people that are good in methodology, that are professional educators.
Yes.
And we were performing interviews. We were interacting with them. We were doing some working sessions with the presence of AI. So basically, we were not just feeding some type of prompt. We were just recording everything visually on audio, transcribed, and not transcribed to, and putting it into different linguistic models to analyze it and then to show what was good, what was not good, how something should be done, and So, but I can really reply on a question how we implement AI in this business because it's pure AI, right?
Yeah.
So it's the AI that generates the outline. There is AI that generates the text of the lesson. There is an AI that analyzes your materials if you upload it, and so on and so forth. So it's just, different linguistic models connected with each other, interacting like a live being, just to give you the best result. So another thing that we do, so I'm a sailor, it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
I have an International Sailing School Association license, and I'm very passionate about yachts, boats, and everything in that field. And of course, at a certain moment, I transformed it into a business. So we charter boats, we sell boats, and we're also building a boat. And I had an idea, what if there will be AI inside a boat that can analyze the whole system, like what's going on, what's the condition, what needs replacement, what may broke soon, and so on and so forth. That's one side. While another side, what if we use AI for navigation or for tracking different obstacles that may float inside of water? Or if we track the marine life, if we want to see whales or dolphins.
Wow, amazing.
So there are companies that developed actually cameras and different systems that may be placed on yachts and connected to their systems to give those functions partly, but we want to create a yacht that's connected with everything. And so there's like a smart system on board that navigates, that tracks obstacles, that tracks marine life, and that tracks your system of your yacht and is communicating with you.
Wow.
So I believe like the best way for me, how it may look like, is you're just, standing on your yacht and just telling what to do, where to go, on what speed, which direction, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
So we're working on it right now.
A smart world.
Well, I believe if we have self-driving cars,
Yeah.
why not to have a self-driving boat, right?
Yeah.
So that's just another part of. While the third thing I already described it, so we have I can tell it like it's a media agency, but yes, it's a media agency with a huge connection with AI, where we, before creating any type of content, we create your digital twin and we explore your personality from the wise of archetypes of your audience. Of basically, we put your tone of voice, your ideology, your vision, your mission, your core ideas, your wording, your everything you can basically express with words. We put it inside the system and we get a perfect tool to create the scripts for your reels, to create text for your public speeches, to create articles for your social media, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, looking across all of your AI ventures, from education to yachting, what do you see the next steps or the next evolution of the humanity's relationship with AI is? And how should we preparing for that future that we don't even know or haven't discussed yet?
That's an amazing question, but I believe the answer is continuous learning. There was a good point that you just said, that we don't know how the future is going to look like. And there are many scenarios. A lot of them are not as bright, sadly.
Yeah.
And probably the best thing that we can do right now is to learn how to operate AI, is to understand what other exponential technologies are, how they gonna grow, and how they gonna interact with each other, how they gonna take over the industries, because potentially every exponential technology gonna change the market dramatically. And if we are able to get this understanding, so let's say 3D printing is about to change the way we build buildings, right?
Yeah.
Just as an example. And if we add the artificial intelligence to it, or if we add robotics to it, then we have a much brighter perception of how the thing's going to move soon, or like in 5 years or in 10 years. And if we learn how to use it as somebody who's the first in the market, right?
Yeah.
Then probably we can adopt, and probably we will not be left outside of this new era of exponential technological growth. Personally, I'm very excited, curious, but also a little bit stressed about the merge of quantum computing and AI. That's probably one of the next big things.
Yeah.
Same as virtual reality and augmented reality.
Yeah.
Because we all know that AI can visualize a lot of things right now, do it really quick. We all can see the development of different smart glasses and devices to, transport the image just in our eye. And that's also one big thing close to the neural connection of devices just to our brain.
Yeah.
I'm honestly very against it. I'm super against it, because this is the way when we will be unable to disconnect even for some time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we have to be connected and stay connected with the nature, and save the ability to disconnect from the noise of technologies.
Yeah, beautiful said.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for this conversation. It was such a pleasure having you. Where we can find you?
Instagram, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, pretty everywhere.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being our guest
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here for this podcast episode of the Supercharged, and watching our special guests and learning about the future. I'm going to include all of the links below the video so you can have them. I'm looking forward to see you next time.